I asked Mike, any sense of relief that it's over now?
You know, the interesting thing about it is the work is so hard leading into it, but really the hard work begins now. We don't just get a stop today because we introduce a new coach, and we get to have a press conference and a little bit of a celebratory environment, it felt like, up here today. But the real work begins now, and so we'll get right back to it.
A lot of people initially would have doubted your ability or anybody else's ability to hire him from the situation he was in. When was the first time you thought, we can't have him, we can get this guy?
I think we felt that way from the beginning. That was our mission. There was never any indication that it couldn't happen. Certainly, there wasn't any indication that it was viable either. But that wasn't going to deter us. I think that we felt that we had a really good plan, and I think we felt that we had a opportunity that really made a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, and I think in this case, logic prevailed.
How did what can you say about the timing of it? Was it conducive to launch a search now as opposed to a year or 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think so many times in the coaching world we focus so much on whether a coach should be retained or not, and there's so much conversation, and really much to the detriment of human beings, that everybody just wants to fire people all the time, and I think that's a sad part of our industry and the way that it's followed by a lot of people. And I understand that passion is part of that, right? I always say that we have to accept passion in all its forms. We can't love it when it's in our favor and wish it were different when it's not. But I think that there's a second phase of that, which is who you're going to get as your coach. And you hear all the time I've got a list in my desk, in my drawer. It's great to have a list, but it's about how you actually recruit somebody successfully to be your coach. Can you get that first choice on your list? And so we had to be really thoughtful about how we positioned ourselves so that one day we could be standing up here introducing somebody like Lincoln Riley to be our new head coach. And I understand that could have been frustrating for people. And I think we've all observed a number of programs that just seem to believe that the answer is to consistently hire and fire and hire and fire without recognizing that, much like an NFL coach with a general manager or ownership, that alignment and support and resources are critical. And so there was a process, there was a build. Did we expect that this would be the outcome? No. But in everything that we do, it's about increasing the probability of getting to a successful outcome. And the program that we have today versus what we had 2 years ago simply gave us a better probability of being able to achieve this outcome. And I would argue, and this is a question you'd have to ask Lincoln, but I don't think 2 years ago Lincoln Riley would be the head coach of USC. I don't know that for sure, but I think that the state of our program and the alignment of our university and our leadership, all that you heard up there, that was very real. That has been the key, and I think that all of these factors together made this possible.
Kind of piggybacking on that, what in terms of those changes, how was it clear that kind of resonated with Lincoln as you were making that final pitch to him?
You know, I'm not sure that it's so much that it resonated with Lincoln, so as much as it did that as we went through our process and we had hundreds of conversations with hundreds of different people, we heard from them what the perception of USC was, and that our brand was incredibly strong, and that despite some of the pressures locally and some of the negativity locally, nationally, the perception of USC is just as strong today as it was back in our glory days. And I think it was more about that combination with now a leadership and vision that's committed to winning and shows a degree of understanding of how to build it, so that you know that you're going into a situation where you have great partners, great support. I think that from the outside, we tend to look at some of these decisions for coaches and we think that, if job A is better than job B, then certainly they must go. But these are human beings making choices that are primarily about family and all these different factors. And so if you're going to uproot your life and go somewhere and do something different, you have to know that you're going to be supported and given every opportunity to be successful. And we talk a lot about championship expectations at USC, and we embrace those. But I think we care more about who you are and what you do than what you talk about. And when we have championship expectations that are derived from our historical performance, we get that. But at the end of the day, what expectations really are they're established relative to the tools and the resources that you have to do your job. And now we've put ourselves in a position where that person knows that they have the tools and the resources to meet those expectations. And I think that can be compelling when paired with everything we know about USC that's so special.
If Oklahoma wins that game on Saturday, just how different does this go timing-wise or search-wise?
I honestly don't know. I will say watching that game was one of the more excruciating experiences of my life. Obviously, we didn't know which way this would go, but certainly knew that there were possibilities. And so I think when you just think about it intellectually, if Oklahoma wins that game, we may be in a different outcome. And that's sports, that's life. Things just happen on the margins, and it's about timing, and luck can be such an incredible factor. And I think what we did is position ourselves so that when the window of opportunity was created, we were ready to take advantage of it. And I think in some respects, the process being so important, and in this particular case, trying to recruit a coach like Lincoln is really hard, and that's why this doesn't happen very often. And confidentiality was really the single most important factor, because if at any point it got out, it probably ruins it. And so, the ability to do that, and it sort of felt a little bit like Ender's Game. When Oklahoma State won that game, it sort of felt like, hey, the enemy's gates are down, let's go get it done.
Did you have that on in the suite in the Coliseum? Or?
We did. I'm not sure anybody really understood why we were so attentive to that game, and I think in hindsight, my pacing back and forth may have made a lot more sense to some people. But we were watching for sure.
Was there a plan B in
the
place?
last 24 hours look like for you? What have they been like?
Well, I've slept 3 hours since I woke up Saturday, so I'm trying my best to recall what it's been the last 24 hours versus any other period of time. But obviously, trying to close a deal and get a signature was the first step, and then your attention immediately turns to, all right, how are we going to roll this thing out, and how do we communicate it? And we're fortunate that we had this great transition team that we had set up weeks ago of key people from HR and compliance and academics and football operations, and we had spent weeks planning for a transition and an onboarding, and we had a rollout team that had spent weeks preparing for exactly this idea of a press conference up here with this incredible backdrop. That was not something that happened last night. That was weeks of preparation, and so really grateful to the team of people that we have who understood the importance of what this was going to represent for USC, even without knowing who the coach was going to be, and being ready for it. And so now it's just been the fun part of executing it, and I think to be a part of something that means so much to so many people, it's not lost on us, even though we're so focused on what it is that we're doing and what we need to accomplish. It's not lost on us that so many people, their identity is rooted in USC football, and that this changes lives for people. It really does. It means so much to so many people, and so trying to process that and appreciate that while also trying to do the job and get it done. It's been it's surreal, honestly. It really is. I'm looking at welcome to the Trojan family, Lincoln Riley, and I honestly, it's still hard to believe.
Was there a plan B in place if this thing had blown up?
There were always multiple plans in place.
What was the reaction from people when you started telling them fill that in with his name?
One of the first calls I made was to Tim, and Tim is usually a typically very level-headed, calm, even-keeled guy. He actually didn't respond at all, and later on he was like, I couldn't even process it. He had written bios for all these candidates, and obviously hadn't written one for Lincoln. So I think that as it got out, there was obviously the same excitement that you all observed. It's a testament to the respect that there is for Lincoln in the coaching world and all that he's accomplished at such a young age, and really not just accomplished, but really in a remarkable way. I mean, with Heisman trophies and incredible accolades, right? It's just it's special. I mean, it really is. This is awesome.
Can you paint the scene for us? When was the first time Lincoln's name came up in this process? Where were you?
It was 2014, and I was interning for Mike Bone at the University of Cincinnati the first time Lincoln Riley's name came up.
But this year?
It was always number one. I mean, to me, it's a question of viability and can it work, and how you position yourself strategically to try to get to where you're trying to go.
At Cincinnati, how far along did you guys actually end up getting in terms of the process with him? Was there just initial conversations? Or?
We had a little bit of a joke about that. He didn't take our call. So he didn't take our call, which at the time we didn't know that he was probably a few months away from being the head coach at Oklahoma, which made a lot of sense.
How does it feel now that they took your call?
Yeah, wow. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms. I think it's a testament to USC and the strength of this university, and I'm just very, very happy for the Trojan family.
How much work have you done the last 2 years behind the scenes to position financially to be able to make a move like this?
I think the business case is always an important factor. Obviously, our media rights deal is up in 2 years, and college football playoff expansion seems likely, and we understand the economics of that. We also can model against how we've performed in our key revenue areas historically relative to where we are now with fundraising and ticket sales. So I think an early part of the process was just being able to understand and establish the financial parameters and what made sense and what we were capable of doing, and also really understanding the marketplace and where it was going.
How aggressive would you say you were financially with this?
I think we were consistent with the marketplace.
What did Saturday night going into Sunday morning look like for you guys as you're preparing to speak to Lincoln, and this game, the BYU game, ended just before midnight? So what is that process like as you prepare for that meeting?
Yeah, it was right back to the office and working through the night, trying to figure out a way to see if this could come together and make it happen. And Rick Caruso and Dr. Full were amazing and accessible and available, and we were able to have an opportunity to visit with Lincoln and I think make our case.
We saw him kind of look around in disbelief at the city right as he's making his first comments. Obviously this is a guy from West Texas who coached at Oklahoma. How much of a sell did you guys have to make in terms of him kind of transitioning to a much different place to coach a team?
Yeah, it was definitely something that came up in conversation. Again, the coaches are making decisions primarily about their family and it's how it's going to affect them. And Mike and I both talked about, I'm just a kid from Cincinnati, Ohio, and he's from Boulder, Colorado, and we're not the picture, I guess, of what it is out here either. We're not from here, and I think the great thing about LA is that there's something for everyone, and so I think that was really the message: is if we can do it, I think you can too. He's cooler than we are, so I don't think it'll be a problem.
What time exactly did that call take place with Lincoln?
I don't want to get into specifics.
Was Saturday then?
Sorry, Sunday morning.
Sunday.
Yeah.
What was it like trying to navigate a hire this big and you're doing that interview over Zoom with a hire like this?
I think you have to weigh the risk factors. Anytime you try to do something in person with timing, it can be problematic. More people have to get involved. The Twitter flight tracker guys are going to be problematic potentially. And again, I think the biggest threat to anything like this is word getting out. So, with somebody like Lincoln, their resume speaks for themselves in a lot of ways. There are things that obviously you want to discuss, but I don't think that. I think that again, it's a risk calculus, and you just have to assess each individual situation and make the best decision that you think is going to positively affect the outcome.
How many coaches did you vet overall?
I would say dozens. Yeah, I mean, dozens.
You mentioned his resume. What did you know about him or learn about him, kind of off the field personality that you felt like he'd be a good fit?
Yeah, I think obviously his performance accolades speak for themselves, but anybody who you talk to about Lincoln Riley first and foremost talks about what a great human being he is. And I think that makes an impact anytime you have a coach who's that successful, and people who have known him all their lives say that he's still the same person he was when he was 18 years old. And I think his commitment to doing things the right way, treating athletes the right way, there was great values alignment there. I mean, there's elite coaches everywhere, right? There's a reason that Lincoln Riley in particular was the coach that we felt like was the best and right leader for USC.
How are you able to keep this process so quiet?
Just trying to keep as few people involved as you can. not ideal, because obviously there would be a lot of people that you love to bring into the process, but it's about educating those involved that if something like this is going to happen, it has to stay quiet. But there's really not that much to stay quiet about, because that was something internally we understood was our top priority in our first candidate. But really, until you get down to the last 24 hours, does it really escalate to the point that you're worried about things that could get out?